Hi, I'm Robert Sidick. We were talking with a fairly large enterprise about data management. Surprisingly, they didn't have a data office or even a clear data leader. They had one person focused on data management and governance.
Not a great plan.
We weren't surprised when we heard from others that their data wasn't in great shape, so we asked about their plans for improving data quality. They described this enterprise-wide approach they have been on for a year or so. They called it an onion approach because it was all-encompassing, and they would start broadly on the outside and progress the entire company one layer of data management maturity at a time towards the center.
Well, that's one way to do it.
I thought I could give our perspective on why First CDO Partners would almost never select an onion approach for a data management implementation, except maybe at a very small company. First, let's talk about what looks attractive about this type of approach.
Give me the good news.
For starters, it utilizes a holistic system perspective. So you'd be assessing, designing, and building data management capabilities across your entire business ecosystem, as opposed to focusing on smaller chunks of departments or systems or data domains. Now, this theoretically ensures that you have very comprehensive data management processes, since you're taking everyone's detailed needs into account at once. In other words, you avoid isolated solutions that could come from an iterative approach. Next, you could piggyback on enterprise-wide initiatives. Perhaps you have a large digital transformation occurring. Well, while you have your business processes cut open on the operating table, you may as well fix your data processes while you're there. This makes great sense, and we see a lot of value in addressing data alongside other transformations. However, this is only an advantage if you have another large transformation occurring.
What's the next one say?
Another advantage is that this big bang approach forces alignment between all departments at the same time. So any conflicting goals between the marketing team, the sales team, the finance team, customer support, whoever, they must be sorted out before you can move on. So you'll theoretically, again, have all the departments all aligned on data definitions and quality targets and data ownership, which is a great spot to be in. And last, you should see significant value in large ways.
Show me the money!
As you reach the end of taking the enterprise to a layer, the value of that step will be cumulative for the entire enterprise, as opposed to just being within a domain or a department. So the value may take a while to realize. We'll get back to that one later. But things should notably improve company-wide with each milestone. However, you have to execute this strategy in reality and not on paper. So let's talk about some of the reasons we avoid introducing data management with this type of approach at larger enterprises. First, this is a major undertaking. It's a large project when you start, and it becomes increasingly complex as you navigate through each layer. So imagine all the decisions you have to make and all the edge cases you have to deal with just the data within a single data set, let alone within a data domain or a system or department. Now expand this to be across the entire enterprise. As you get past the planning and prepping phases of those outer layers of your onion and start doing the work of data management, there's going to be an increasing amount of work to get done. That brings me to my next point. To manage all of that work, you will need a very large data office to coordinate and execute. You will actually need a much larger data office during this implementation phase than you will when you are in a run state. So you'll likely need to partner with a consulting firm big enough to bring you a busload of consultants that will split into teams to cover each business unit or data domain.
Ooh, that sounds expensive.
Another negative of trying to implement data management enterprise-wide in one big bang is that you're disrupting all of the business areas simultaneously. Change is disruptive. There's no getting around that. We prefer to focus the change in one area so that the entire business isn't brought to its knees. We end up having moderate disruption in one focused area, maybe some minor disruption in some areas that are connected to that focused area, but the rest of the business keeps humming along. Now, we do often stop the data bleeding, so to speak, by implementing data best practices as appropriate on new projects to start. However, that typically adds minor additional work to each project. Yeah, you could say that's enterprise-wide because you're affecting the entire enterprise, possibly, depending on what projects are in flight, but that's different than the transformational change needed to bring reasonable data management practices into legacy business processes. We execute that kind of change one targeted area at a time, maybe two. Fourth, this onion approach greatly increases time to value. Think of it like this. With an onion approach, you're trying to move 100 footballs 1 yard at a time to the end zone. It'll take a long time before you get there. Now, like I said before, when you get there, you'll generate a lot of value at one time. However, we prefer to move one football 100 yards, get that value, and then focus on moving the next football 100 yards.
Nice analogy.
Another issue is that to undertake a project that will be complex, resource intensive, disruptive, and not yield results quickly will require strong and sustained executive buy-in. Now, don't get me wrong, you need strong leadership support for our iterative approach as well, but being less disruptive, having a smaller burn rate, and delivering value more frequently is a lot easier to support than the alternative. And the last negative I'll talk about today is the inability to refine the process or to experiment with different ways of implementing changes or to recover from mistakes. While our approach is fairly standard, every company's ways of working or their culture is a little bit different. So we learn what worked well and what didn't when we execute that first implementation. We can experiment with different delivery styles or methods, and if one doesn't work, it's typically easy to change course and find a way that will work better at the organization. When you're moving the entire company at once, you really only get one shot at doing it perfectly. And if you make a mistake or misjudge how quickly you can move, the cost of undoing or redoing that activity is far more expensive. So there you have it. Our thoughts on why you should reconsider Big Bang approaches to introducing data management throughout your enterprise. If you have questions or disagree, feel free to comment below. If you'd like to learn more, you can contact us through our website at firstcdo.com. Thank you, and let's do this again sometime.